Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Christopher Ryan, an admissions counselor at Stony Brook University. And today our topic is, whoa, I'm in college, now what? And so for this NACAC session, when I was coming up with ideas of what to talk about, we often focus on the entry points of, the university. And so, what does it take in terms of the admissions process? What's the criteria that we're really looking for when we're, entering university life? And so, there are a lot of steps and things that are going to happen over the 4 years that you're going to be in university. And so I wanted to give kind of a bit of a crash course guide into, some things to expect, some challenges that you'll come across, ways that we can support you as a campus community. And, it really is an exciting time in your life, and I wish I could do it all over again. So I'm very excited for all of you here today. And I'm guessing all of you are here today because you're interested in making a better life for yourself, and you see education as a means to reach this end. So without further ado, we'll jump right in. And so when we look at colleges and universities, we see each one of them has a mission statement and a vision statement. And these are, really our guiding principles for the way that our community operates and the way that we can serve our students in various capacities around campus. And so Stony Brook University has a 5-point mission statement. You can see on the screen now. But I also want to ask you, and kind of to reframe and flip the script, what's your personal mission statement? What are you looking to get out of your undergraduate experience and university life? How will you engage with the campus community to achieve your goals and your vision? You may not have many thoughts about it right now, but there's still plenty of time to craft these ideas. And so, you may think in concrete terms, such as earning a degree. And this is really a finish line of sorts. So it's great to start with the end in mind. We love that in higher education. Where is your destination? Where are you starting in terms of your origins? But you really want to begin to flesh out what the experience looks like for you over the next 4 years. And so, you really want to begin by taking comfort in the process. When you first join a college or a university, the community is going to have measures in place to really assist you with your transition from high school to university, or possibly transferring from one college to another. Most commonly, this is going to come in the form of an orientation, which could be, a single session or a week-long experience, and also the freshman seminar. Orientation is really your first introduction to the campus community as a current student. There's typically various academic and social programming offered to you, so you can really start to build strong connections with the community that you're joining. And so this means, talking with faculty and staff, making new friends, and beginning to see the opportunities that are available to you. And so one thing you want to keep in mind is, how do you want to participate in the college or the university that you're going to be joining? The second piece really is the freshman seminar, and you can think of this as an extension to the orientation session or the week that you'll have leading up to classes. And so freshman seminar is a class you'll take your first semester, and it aims to get you acclimated to university life and making deeper connections with the campus community. You'll learn about the school, what it's known for, what opportunities are available, such as research and study abroad. And we'll get to those in a little bit later toward the end of the presentation. And then you also begin to break the ice on how you can participate inside and outside of the classroom. There are a lot of different ways that you're going to make connections in the community, and you're also going to have a lot of support in your corner, no matter where you go. At Stony Brook University, you'll have 13 different advisors in your corner to help you reach your destination. Most commonly, I think this is going to be your academic advisor, general advisor, major advisor. You'll have a financial advisor as well as a residence hall advisor. But you're a really important part of the equation and the calculus of your undergraduate experience. And so I would definitely encourage and advise you to self-advocate and learn how to walk through the door to find services and support. And so this is really the first place I would invite you to challenge yourself, is to be your own best advocate. It's a big part of the mission in American higher education to prepare you for life after undergrad. And at Stony Brook University, we do that in a lot of ways. And so, learning obviously occurs inside the classroom, but we also want to think about the experience outside the classroom. You want to be your best self in both spaces, and However you want to put it, you can be like a sponge and soak it all up, or maybe you want to be more like Bruce Lee and you want to flow like water, taking on new shapes and forms. And so you're going to learn a lot about yourself and the world, and confirming your identity and many different pieces along the way. It is important to take care of yourself too in college. So, considering your mental health and physical well-being is a great place to begin. You'll have opportunities to join things like intramural sports, club sports, and possibly compete at Division 1, 2, or 3 levels. Stony Brook has 18 Division 1 sports on campus. So if that's something for you, I'd definitely invite you to go to our athletics website. Perhaps one of my colleagues, Amanda or Johnny, can drop the link in the chat there, and then get on the inquiry card and radar of our coaches. But, if that's not for you, it's not for everyone. You may want to check out the Campus Recreation Center for pickup sports games. We have various exercise classes, my personal favorite being the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Club, or you can get a solo workout in. And so shifting to more of the, mental health piece, in our world today, it's very important. It's a growing idea, and it's really great to see people, getting help for themselves and really, learning what that space involves. And so you'll learn skills such as time management, how to work through a conflict with a roommate, coping strategies for stress and anxiety. And, these are all parts of the human experience, and you'll grow into your own through having them. So, learn to ask for help if you need it, and approach the university life with an open mind and a laughing heart. You want to bring your curiosities and know that you'll experience failure in many ways along the way. And so, be light on yourself in these moments and learn how to recover from them. Okay, so, remember that university life offers you chances to learn inside and outside the classroom. And our job as staff and faculty is to assist you with your own holistic development. So, we went through some of the sports pieces and the kinds of membership that you can find on campus, and, physical activity and other clubs. And of course, academics are going to be front and center, but you're going to be growing and, learning valuable life skills along the way too. And so we mentioned challenging and confirming your identity, whether that's on your own through reflection and meditation and other exercises, or finding it through social groups and organizations. So, you'll find belonging in different ways and creating your own communities on campus through clubs and organizations, research, study abroad programs, various connections and interpersonal relationships that you're going to have. So don't be afraid to go out there and explore and make some new connections. And so one of the ways that you can do that is, joining a cohort for a study abroad program, or even traveling solo through a study abroad program. And we'll begin to look at some of these opportunities outside the classroom now as well. So some of you, may be lucky and have had the chance to travel before college, and this is great. For others, college may be the first opportunity for you to travel abroad through study abroad programs. I will check back in the chat later, but I just want to get an idea. If you have any interest in studying abroad while you're in college, just type the number 1 in the chat for me. I'd love to follow up on that in the Q&A or the discussion after. And so Stony Brook University offers study abroad trips to 25 different countries. And one of the beautiful things about being a Stony Brook student is we're in the State University of New York system. You may be familiar with this concept. It is 64 campuses, and you'll have access to all of SUNY's study abroad programs. So that's approximately 1,000 different trips that you can take. Even if you have, the slightest interest in study abroad or a curiosity around it, I would urge you to check it out, because it truly is a unique opportunity, a once in a lifetime experience. I didn't study abroad when I was in college, and honestly, it's probably my biggest regret. A couple things to know off the bat. Typically, and this is something that you want to check out with the institutions that you're considering applying to, but usually financial aid will follow you on your study abroad experience, including scholarships at Stony Brook University. So I wouldn't let the cost or the anxiety of the cost prevent you from exploring your options at the very baseline. One caveat, there are some institutions in American higher education that will increase tuition for some study abroad programs. Stony Brook University is not looking to make money off of students studying abroad. So that's one thing that I learned as a professional in my own graduate program. So inquire about the costs and whether or not the university is making money off of those things as well. It's a great tip for study abroad possibilities. One last thing to consider is costs for study abroad are going to be unique to the trip. At Stony Brook, we offer ones that are going to be, 1 or 2 weeks, very immersive experience, possibly over the summer or the winter. And then there are opportunities to travel for a semester long or a year long opportunity. Or if you wanted to stack different study abroad opportunities, you can do that, term to term. And so aside from having the best time of your life, possibly, you'll learn so much about yourself, the way that others live and their culture, and how to solve problems in new environments and contexts. These are all extremely valuable life skills. And looking at it through, professional opportunities and the career frame, when it comes to business opportunities, one of the most underfunded ideas is being prepared to engage in international business. So a lot of companies are missing out on international or global contexts in their own business development because they don't have people who, understand the cultures and able to connect with various, populations. So that's another feather in your cap. It's a great resume building opportunity to launch your professional career as well. All right, we're going to pivot a little bit here. So we just discussed study abroad. Another great opportunity that you'll have in undergrad is research experience. And Stony Brook really has research in spades. It's a great way to showcase your skills to future employers, including your passion and your dedication to a field of study. And so you'll see a little bit about us on screen now. We have about 2,000 undergraduate researchers annually. We have one of the oldest offices in American higher education dedicated to undergraduate research. And that's that second bullet point there with the undergraduate research and creative activities program. We have about 2,000 labs on campus, and we co-manage Brookhaven National Lab. So if you are interested in research at the intersection of the natural sciences, computer science, as well as engineering, there are really only a handful of places in the United States and sometimes in the world that can be doing the research that's being done there. Stony Brook University has a $200 million research budget with approximately 1,000 active federal grants. And since our inception in 1957, we've had about 2,330 faculty-led inventions, including the MRI and the barcode. So these are things that we're using every day and, things that are changing the world. When it comes down to it, colleges and universities are guardians of civilization, and you'll have the opportunity to make the world a better place and leave a legacy in your undergraduate studies and possibly influence the world, beyond through technology and research developments. And so in sum, our community at Stony Brook is really focused on solving some of the most critical problems of today. And so, with those two experiential learning opportunities in mind, at Stony Brook and, the vast majority of institutions, colleges and universities in America, we really want to engage your passions, whatever they may be. And so it could be something as simple as making a list and checking things off that you want to do in university life, no matter how big or small. You have to find your own approach and what works for you. And so, don't be afraid to update this list and pivot and know when things are changing. We mentioned some of the university support systems that you'll have at Stony Brook. And so, seek the help of others and the support of others, especially right now, your parents and guardians, friends, people who, have this wisdom from their own life experiences and their own undergraduate careers. You want to leverage those perspectives, but know that these are your decisions to make, and you have to be the ones, putting in the work and being comfortable with them. And so, to quote one of my favorite authors, Charles Bukowski, your life is your life, and you have to know it while you have it. I want to pan out a little bit now to a bit of an overview about Stony Brook, just in case a few folks are unfamiliar with us here. This is our beautiful campus. We're 60 miles east of New York City on the North Shore of Long Island. We have about 18,000 undergraduates and about 10,000 of which who live on campus. So if you're familiar with the SUNY system and those 64 campuses around the state, we have the most students who live on campus out of every SUNY school. So social life is, constantly evolving and changing. There are thousands of events that happen on campus every year, ranging from our, Division I athletics to 325 clubs and organizations. We have the Stoller Center for Performing Arts, where there are professional functions and art shows that are happening there. We have the Paul Zucchero Gallery on campus. If you're an artist, possibly interested in curating your own gallery experience and showcasing some of your own work. And it's also very easy to get in and around, campus. So we have our own university bus system internally. If you're familiar with New York City, they have the City Bike bike share program. We have our own version of that. So it's very easy. You just swipe your ID card and, take it off the rack, get you to, point B, drop it off there. And I think one of the coolest things about Stony Brook is we have our own train station on campus. So this is part of the Long Island Railroad. Commuting into the city for work and entertainment purposes is part of our everyday life here on Long Island. And so having our own train station on campus, we can facilitate a lot of experiences locally in terms of internships and entertainment. But New York City, let's face it, it's one of the best cities in the world. And so we want you to have access to that as well. You'll be able to work with the Career Center, look at internship opportunities in Manhattan. Very strong industries there, kind of across the board, but some of you may know it for fashion and marketing and media. Lots of big business in New York City. So if you're looking to really make that connection from undergraduate life into, the start of your professional career, there are some really great opportunities to get involved there. And one more thing, that beautiful body of water is the Long Island Sound. So we're only about 3 miles from West Meadow Beach. It's one of the most ecologically diverse areas in New York. So whether you're here for any of our 200 academic programs, it's a great place just to kind of chill out and unwind. They have a restaurant right on the beach there. Great place to catch a sunset. But if you're here for or have an interest in any of the School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences programs, being one of the most ecologically diverse areas in New York really does have its perks and benefits. You'll have access to a fleet of research vessels on the North Shore of Long Island, as well in the upper right-hand corner, you can see our Southampton campus. It's about 45 minutes southeast of us. And they do some really great things out there with their research vessels, giving direct access to the Atlantic Ocean, but also think of it as like a local study abroad program almost, where you'll live out in Southampton and have that immersive experience, spending a lot of time on the water, and really, getting close to faculty in the community there. All right, so we talked about, the personal mission that you might have and the way that you can craft, at least in some ways, your undergraduate experience inside and outside the classroom. We want you to reach that finish line. And, that really is, the degree conferment. And so 95% of our graduates, upon achieving their degree are full-time employed or continuing their education within 6 months of leaving Stony Brook. And so you're not truly leaving Stony Brook, but your role is changing. So, you go from a current student to an alumni. We have about 200,000 alumni who you can leverage in terms of possibly finding a mentor, making professional connections, and then paying it forward after the fact, to current students in the future. And so as a final point of advice, I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, are familiar with Kendrick Lamar. I want to call on one of his lyrics right now, which invokes the 5 Ps. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. And so if you're, giving some kind of thought to what you want out of university life, I have no doubt that you'll maximize your opportunities and get the most out of what you're looking for. And so give me a moment. I'm going to catch up with the chat now. I do want to offer the opportunity to have more dialogue and a conversation. So, if you feel comfortable, just raise your hand. One of my colleagues, Amanda or Johnny in the back, will give you the green light, and then you can ask a question or, just give us feedback and what you're looking for in undergraduate life. Okay, we got one question here in the chat or in the Q&A. Thank you, Kayla. First year scholarships, question mark, merit-based scholarships, honor scholarships. Do you take transfer credits, such as dual credit courses and AP courses? Great questions. Quite a few ideas to unpack in this area. Stony Brook University automatically considers for merit-based scholarships when you complete an application. Being a public university, we have the New York State resident and the non-resident cost. And what's important, we want to build equity and access into the admissions process. It's part of our mission to celebrate diversity, and to really help promote that, we want to, create financial equity in the process too. So we do offer merit-based scholarships that go up to full tuition. Regarding honor scholarships, I'm not aware of specific honors scholarship opportunities. If one of my colleagues in the back wants to, add to that answer, if they have any links to support, I'd truly appreciate that. There are various honors opportunities available at Stony Brook, though, and you'll just check the box on the application at first. If you're applying to more than one, we have the Honors College, we have University Scholars, we have Women in Science and Engineering, as well as invitation-only ones to specific programs, such as the Computer Science Honors Program. So if you're applying to more than one, we'll ask that you prioritize them. And then upon submission of your application, a few days later, typically you'll get access to an application status portal, which is where you'll upload additional content for the honors program, such as letter of recommendation and a personal statement specific to your top choice. As far as transfer credits go, we accept IB, HL coursework, so that's the higher level with a grade of 5 or higher on the exam. AP classes, typically you're going to run about a 3 or higher. If you have a 4 or a 5, in some cases, you'll earn more credit. Excuse me. And then with college level coursework, anything with a C or higher will transfer. Okay, Joshua asks, do most students seek internships in the Stony Brook area or in New York City? I would say I don't have an exact statistic on like a percentage for, each of those populations, but I think it's a really nice mix of both. So some students are looking for more local experience. So, we run career fairs and networking opportunities through our career center, as well as, various support services such as resume writing workshops, mock interview trials, to really help you prepare for those, skills that you would need to enter the workforce and as a young professional. I would say it's partly also dependent on the major or the academic area that you're interested in. So for things like, computer science, engineering, there's a lot happening locally in terms of Brookhaven National Lab and other companies. But, if you wanted to work with, like, let's say Google, they have an office in New York City. You may want to, step up and commute for that opportunity. All right, Maya Thomas asks, is on-campus housing guaranteed for freshmen? And the answer is yes. We guarantee housing all 4 years. So if you start on campus with us, we want to guarantee housing all 4 years. So we offer a few different living arrangements on campus. You have the corridor style living, which is a freshman experience. And, you think of like a hotel wing. You have your own room and one roommate. There are common areas and bathrooms on each floor. And then, typically as a rite of passage, you can elevate to a suite, possibly in sophomore, but, definitely junior year. Think of this as a mini apartment of sorts. You have a common room with rooms that are off of it, as well as your own bathroom in suite. And then we have opportunities in more apartment style living, which would be like you're truly like your own residence of sorts. All right, I see Johnny going to work on one question, so I'm going to skip over that one. Thank you. All right, Wenli asks, can you talk about any, quick draw, I gotta go to a different tab. Can you talk about any opportunities that Stony Brook University provides for students planning to enter the health sector? Yeah, absolutely. So the health sciences, it's no secret that they're very strong and they're very well built out at Stony Brook. Off the cuff, we have the School of Health Technology and Management. They have various health science degrees there, both clinical and non-clinical pathways. And so when we think about healthcare in the United States, and the people that really make the system work and run, we have doctors and nurses. These are typically the most common answers that we get. But it truly takes an entire organization to make sure that healthcare is being offered and provided at the level and service that is expected, especially with the Stony Brook brand. So you have all different kinds of laboratory work and support staff on a clinical perspective that support treatment and diagnosis and understanding what the best path forward would be for individual healthcare. And then you have all the administrative side of it. So let's say you didn't want to work with patients, but you still wanted to be a part of that mission. It takes a whole other side of that to make sure things are running smoothly. We have pre-professional health advising available. And I'd like to extend that thought to other areas of interest. So, whether that be medicine or pre-veterinarian sciences, teaching, and then of course your major advisors. These are all people that you want to, really connect with, whether it's required or not. It's something that you want to, build a roadmap together around your interests and take advantage of the opportunities that are available. We mentioned a little bit about research earlier. So having that research piece on your application to medical school, let's say, would be a nice feather in your cap. Alternatively, we have a volunteer office in our own university hospital on campus. It's a tertiary hospital, which means they serve every kind of healthcare need that you could possibly think of. They focus on special populations and different critical care wings and different floors and segments of the hospital. So getting a diversity of experiences under your belt with a health science profession in mind, it'll help you confirm your interests along the way. It's important to know what's right for you, but also what's not right for you and what you didn't enjoy. So definitely advise you, to garner different interests in your undergrad and, really leveraging the power of the Stony Brook Healthcare Network. We work with about 1,500 providers on Long Island, and we have 200 different locations in Stony Brook medicine alone. So there are lots of opportunities on campus and in the local community. All right, so anonymous attendee asks, if you have a friend who also gets accepted to the school, is there anything that you can guarantee that you and your friend become roommates and fill out any forms? Absolutely. So after you gain admission to Stony Brook University, there's a couple pieces that you're going to want to take care of in terms of like the tuition deposit, new student preferences form, which asks you very basic questions like, do you want to live on campus? And, it'll take you all of a couple minutes to complete. In due time, orientation and new student programs at Stony Brook University will, begin to fill in some of those blanks in terms of what comes next. And you'll gain access to the housing portal for Stony Brook University. If two people express interest in rooming together and there's a match there, then that's, something easy that we can set up and honor. If you don't have somebody in mind that you want to live with, then you're going to fill out preferences forms for, your living style, essentially. So, are you looking for, a very social person, or, a night owl, or are you a morning person? We really want to create harmony as much as we can through the, living experience in the residence halls. So be honest about your preferences and what you're looking for. And it's a complex equation of sorts, having 10,000 plus students who live on campus, but we want to give you, as much of, what you're looking for through that housing portal as we can. All right, Maya coming in with another question. Thank you. How has Stony Brook handled the unexpected pandemic? Are most classes virtual, and are most extracurricular activities only virtual or canceled? Great question. Although the pandemic is not in the rearview mirror yet, we've turned quite a few corners since then. When the pandemic first hit in March 2020, the university went pretty much fully virtual for classes. And so, social activities were very limited as well. It was about an 85% virtual or hybrid split, with about 15% of classes in person. And those were really, dedicated to spaces that needed to be done live. So, we think of like our studio art programs or laboratory work that might be done. And the same thing, really followed suit in student affairs and the activities that were happening outside the classroom. Um, this fall term, though, I have to say, it takes a community to really come together and make things work. And Stony Brook is really doing it. A lot of things feel normal on campus, and it's, really a breath of fresh air after all the social distancing and things that we've done to keep our community safe. And of course, safety is top priority. So we still have, a mask policy, social distancing, as well as there was a vaccine policy. So, with those safety measures in mind, extracurriculars, our sports and clubs and organizations are meeting. Things are going really great. And, our COVID numbers have, stayed low. I don't know what they are right now, but I believe over the, course of the pandemic, the highest that they, have ever been between the hospital and the campus community were about like 100 or so. Infection rates on the West Campus, which is where the undergraduate experience was held, I think typically held, in the highs of like the 20s or 30s. So everybody really, did a great job collaborating and keeping the community safe. I don't have a crystal ball, and things are unexpected, and like you said, and we'll have to pivot, and we have contingency plans to make sure everyone's safe and maximizing the experiences that they have. But things are looking up, and hopefully it stays that way. All right, Jonathan, thank you for your question. Can you only room with freshmen, or could I room with sophomores and freshmen? Typically, your first year, you're going to be in freshman living experience and residence hall. We understand that there are a lot of transitions that you're going to be going through during your freshman year, and so we want you to have the comfort and company of your peers during that freshman year. After your freshman year, you can live with juniors and seniors and, get in the mix with different classes. But freshman year, we've decided to create that structure in the initial experience to really, help you get comfortable and navigate and share the experience with your peers that are just entering the university. All right, Sarai, let's see what you have to ask. Thank you for your question. Does Stony Brook have season-themed social events to attend? If so, are they free to attend? Quick answer, yes and yes. One of the seasonal events that comes to mind, I think I had a photo up of it on a slide that I had. We have a strawberry festival every year, and that's part of our celebration of Earth Week and, acknowledging and educating and participating in how we can reduce our environmental footprint. And so we really want to, leverage the agricultural opportunities and experiences that we have on Long Island. And so, bringing local strawberries and other things in to create fresh dishes and different culinary experiences all around strawberries. That would be one example. But season themes, I tend to think that, there's a ton of seasonal activities that, are happening in New York. You have all 4 seasons here, which is one thing that I love about New York. And you're going to find, different areas of interest around seasonal activities. I'm sure we, organize like snowboarding and skiing trips that you can take into upstate New York and into New England. But, think of it almost as like the academic calendar and its different seasons. So like we offer 2 different headlining concerts every year. We have the, Wolfie Land Festival, which is like a carnival of sorts. So we do have a lot of campus traditions that link up with, seasonal activities, and then some explicitly linked to different seasons. All right, so keep the questions coming in with the Q&A. I'm going to catch up in the chat now for a little bit. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so we had 6 attendees here with us today who said they were interested in study abroad. Thank you for the feedback. I truly do think it's one of the best things that you can do in undergrad. And maybe I'm just saying that because I have FOMO and I didn't get to do it myself. But, after you graduate from university, your commitments are going to change. You're going to have, maybe possibly grad school or medical school or, another commitment to an advanced degree. You may enter the workforce right away, and some of you will have the opportunity to travel for business purposes. But people tend to grow deeper roots after undergrad. And so, that, may include starting a family, owning a home, the work experiences that we just, went through. So your travel opportunities may become a little bit more limited depending on what your commitments are. And so I definitely want to just reiterate that fact and invite you to, pursue study abroad while you're in school. Uh, I'm currently traveling on behalf of Stony Brook University for various college fairs and recruitment. So right now I'm actually joining you from Texas, and it's a sunny 75 here today. It's beautiful. All right, so we have another question linking up with our study abroad chat here. How many times can one student or one study abroad? Is there a limit? I have not heard of a student reaching a limit for study abroad before. Of course, you're choosing a university for its campus community and its culture. A fun fact about us, we're actually the 9th most diverse campus in the United States. So if you're looking for that in your undergrad experience, Stony Brook's an excellent choice. So, what I would recommend is take your first year, stay at Stony Brook or, the university that you're participating in, and, really get a feel for the community and get involved and engaged. And I find that the best time to study abroad would be during sophomore and junior year. Some students are going to travel during senior year, but I really, just personally, I like the bookends idea of opening your chapter and closing your chapter with the campus and being present on campus. But sky's the limit. If you catch the travel bug and you feel like going to another country, or we have a national exchange program as well with countless universities. I don't know how many off the top of my head, but if you wanted to do a local study exchange experience, you can go to Florida or California or North Dakota, wherever you'd like. All right, getting into the nuts and bolts of admissions. Thank you, anonymous attendee. What is your requirement for GPA and SAT and ACT scores, or is the school test optional? Stony Brook University is test optional right now. There's truly no penalty or disadvantage to being test optional. Looking back historically, typically we're looking for a 90 plus GPA. And then for the SAT, typically the range is about a 1240 to a 1440. ACT is about a 26 to a 31 composite score. So, merit-based scholarship, going back to that financial piece, they're automatically considered when you complete an application, and it does not matter if you submit a test score or not. So I would say if you're in the ranges that I just provided, so 1240, 1440, and then 26 to 31 composite score, I might encourage you to submit your test scores with your application. Scholarship is really going to change a little bit every year based on what the criteria is and what the applicant pool demonstrates to us in terms of their values. And their transcripts and test scores are being test optional. And then, considering the holistic review that we take with your supplements, so the essay, the letter of recommendation, personal statement, activities resume. So definitely use each piece of the application to tell your story. Best piece of advice I can give you right there. But going back to your question, we're test optional. And this was a decision that came from the SUNY Board of Trustees. This isn't a campus decision that can be made. We've been test optional for a couple admission cycles now, and we're finding that, it's working out. And I believe there's, some inequity around standardized testing. And if that can eliminate that and make, the process more accessible for everyone, that's a really good thing. And I hope it stays that way. All right, can you travel and take time off from school? Yeah, of course. So you can, take a leave of absence if you, needed to for personal reasons, or, taking a gap year, or, wanting to travel, personally, not through a study abroad program. The only thing that I would say is you want to consider what the consequences of that decision will be. So, your financial aid may change, scholarship award may change. It may not be available to you if you leave the institution and then you rejoin us. The other thing is, if you end up taking classes at another school, you most likely would have to reapply to Stony Brook as a transfer student. So before you make that decision, speak with financial aid office and advisors, as well as your major advisors, just so you can, really make an informed decision and understand the consequences of your decision. Okay, we have another question here. Does Stony Brook offer any internships or field study programs in social work or psychology? Yes. We have the School of Social Welfare. They have the BSW, which is the Bachelor's of Social Work, as well as the MSW program. They are going to connect you with field work opportunities while you're in the program. And if you're looking for more than that, I definitely invite you to go check out the Career Center. And that's for every major on campus. I don't want you to think the Career Center is just for certain majors. We have a program called Handshake where we list, thousands of internship opportunities, paid and unpaid, across all the disciplines and fields of study that we offer. So over 200 academic programs. And we truly have something for everyone. So psychology is one of the most popular majors on campus. I believe it's in the top 5 in terms of number of students enrolled in it. And they do some really incredible research, on campus and in the community through the psych department as well. There's so many different areas and ideas that you can chase in the field of psychology. So you're going to have this broad range of interests at first. You could focus on, really any element or the whole segment of lifespan development, ranging from children to, geriatric populations. You have things like industrial organizational psychology, which is going to focus on how businesses and organizations function. So, we think of that in terms of, office politics and political skill, how to navigate different organizations and institutions, and really how to optimize, teams and motivations and those kinds of pieces. And then you have, the healthcare and psychology side of it in terms of, maybe opening your own private practice after you get a graduate degree. There's things such as like art therapy and music therapy. You can focus on abnormal and deviant behavior, cognitive behavioral psychology. So, to really build strength in that department, you're going to have a diversity of interests at first, and pulling from all these different theoretical frameworks and, studies over the years is really going to enhance a specific discipline that you're looking into. All right, I'm gonna ask, what is student life like? I got Johnny texting right now, so I'll see what he has to say, and maybe if I have one or two things to contribute after that, I could fill in some more detail. Jonathan asks, do you guys have joint degree programs? If so, what are they? He's seen them on applications. So yes, we do offer dual degree programs. The list is kind of lengthy. There's a fair amount in the business field in terms of like MBA and undergraduate connections. Some of them are going to be involved around teaching, which we only offer 7 through 12. If I could just ask Johnny or Amanda I know that there's a page on our website that specifically shows all the dual degree opportunities we have. If you could just share that for Jonathan, that'd be great. Thank you. All right, so I see Amanda and Johnny have flooded the chat with a lot of great links. Everything ranging from credit evals and what kind of credits we accept to the Semester by the Sea program from Director Kurt Bresch, study abroad, cost aid and scholarships, virtual tours. Everything is pretty robust on our website. So. Of course, we love to connect with you. We have our own email, enroll@stonybrook.edu. Telephone lines are open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. if you'd wish to speak with a counselor. And I believe you could also still text us. So if you want to get the asynchronous convo going with a text, we can start there, but we probably need to move to a different medium to really, open things up a bit. I think we're kind of nearing the end here. So, we'll give you another moment to open any links that you want to save from the chat, because they will disappear once we close the session. Many, many thanks for taking some time on this beautiful Sunday to join us today. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your evening, maybe catch some football or just some R&R. So thank you for joining us. Check out our website. It's, truly holistic. It has everything you need to get, basic answers and really start a conversation with our office. So if you're interested in applying with us, visit at stonybrook.edu. You could check out our deadlines, what we're looking for, and then connect with our counseling staff. It's truly a wonderful team that I work with, and thankful to be a part of a great institution. So thank you for joining us. Enjoy your day.